WWT presents Partner Spotlight.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Partner Spotlight brought to you by WWT Presents. My name is Bob Olwig, and I'm the Executive Vice President for Global Partner Alliances at Worldwide. And I've been at WWT for over 27 years, and I can honestly say I've never seen anything quite like the excitement and expectations for artificial intelligence or AI, especially when you consider the massive amount of opportunity that's out there for every industry. The breathtaking speed at which the technology is moving, I think we can all agree on that. And you can't overlook the potential risk with AI. So we're going to talk a little bit about all three of those topics. And it was only, if you think about it, it was only a little over a year ago when ChatGPT first hit the world stage. And we all can agree, too, that the adoption of AI, whether you go back many, many years in traditional AI or generative AI, is really quite varied across different industries and in the world itself. And some people may even say that it might not even be ready for prime time, while others, including Worldwide Technology, are wholeheartedly embracing it. So whether you believe that AI is ready for prime time or not, let's get started. And it's the reason why I'm so excited to have two great guests on our program today to talk through some of these challenges and really discuss some of the ways that we can all collectively move forward. So I'm thankful to be joined by Travis Polina. He's with Intel, and Intel has been a longtime friend of WWT. And Travis, I believe you're the Global Channel and Partner Sales Director at Intel. So welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks, Bob, and the team for having us today.
I'm also super excited to have Brent Collins, who's got to be one of my favorite people at Worldwide. We've gotten to work so closely together recently as it relates to AI and data. And that's what Brent does at Worldwide now. He's the Senior Director for AI and Data at Worldwide. And he, unlike myself, is in front of a ton of different customers and partners at Worldwide and hearing firsthand what's going on in the market. So again, Travis and Brent, thank you so much for taking time today.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, let's get going. Travis, this one's going to be for you. So we've all been tasked by executive leadership or our boards or our bosses to move fast with AI. But a lot of AI to a lot of people is confusing, right? And not only do they not really know much about AI and what it really means, or especially generative AI, which again has really hit the world stage a year ago, and they're not really sure what the true benefits are of AI. So, Travis, if you could just give us a quick summary, your view of AI and what it's capable of.
Yep, it's a great question, great place to start this off. I can't tell you the number of times I get a call from a customer, from a partner that says, we've been chartered with go build an AI strategy, and we're not really sure what that means. Intel, can you help us out? Do you have partners that can help us understand what that is? Where I normally start that conversation is trying to understand what are the actual business goals you're trying to accomplish. Having an AI strategy without knowing what you really want AI to do, you'll never get anywhere, and you really won't accomplish what you're trying to do. So it's super important to start that conversation on what is the AI strategy, to be able to clearly articulate what is the business outcome you're looking for. What's the problem you're trying to solve? Once you identify that piece of it, it gets a lot easier to say, okay, here's the technologies that exist within that AI portfolio that can solve that problem. But we need to start looking at AI not as an end all, but as a tool to solve a particular business problem. One of the examples that came up over Thanksgiving was family got talking about AI. Knowing what I do, they asked me all kinds of questions. And the easiest way for me to explain it was taking just an old-fashioned example of a car. Somebody comes and says, I need a car. Are you talking about a small daily commuter that you're going to park in a downtown someplace? Or are you talking about a pickup you need to haul lumber? It's exactly that kind of analogy that gets people thinking about, what am I actually trying to accomplish? What am I trying to do? From there, you can make the right recommendations, right? So that's kind of how we think about AI.
Yeah. So, if you think about it, I think you and I and Brent have been in the IT industry for a long time. And I don't think there's anything new there, right? In terms of starting with the end in mind, what the business objective is. And I think then the AI strategy follows from there.
Exactly.
Brent, what do you think?
Yeah, I think everybody's starting in a different spot with AI. And I think, when we look at AI holistically, I don't think businesses can move fast enough into AI. And what I mean by that is, there's some businesses that are really far along. They've been using data analytics, they've been using more traditional AI, and now they're moving into generative AI. There's others that are kind of looking at it going, how do I get started? And I think where Travis was going is right where I would suggest most clients go, which is what are the use cases that are going to drive the biggest impact to your business? So we look at it typically in terms of, how complicated is the use case? How good is the data that supports that use case? And then what's the return on investment look like? The majority of our clients are finding that the use cases that kind of hit all those criteria and hit that sweet spot is really around employee productivity today. But other businesses that we talk to are looking at, how do I create a brand new service or a brand new way to interact with my customers? So the first thing I'd say is you got to get started somewhere. The second thing is choosing the right use case is really, really important to ensuring that you can move forward. And then the third thing is once you choose that use case, it's really easy to get stopped in that process in the proof of concept or pilot phase. So I think if you choose the right use case, get it into that pilot, work with the users, and then work on the overall experience. Nobody's going to use it if it's not easy to interact with. So I think those are some things that we typically want to think about when we're working with clients, but every client's in a different spot. Some are looking at how do I improve my efficiency with my employees? Others are all the way on the other side going, how do I differentiate with my customer base? So I think it's important to understand where you're at and then start moving.
Yeah. So Brent, you've talked about this before around, there are certain customers that are, well along the AI path, right? Maybe they've started with traditional analytics and AI and predictive analytics and so forth. And then there's some that haven't really started yet, right? And I think you've already just laid out a really good roadmap there, is that you have to start with some solid use cases that you can get going and get some initial wins with, and then you build upon that. The other thing that you pointed out that is vitally important is that, like many other IT applications that are out there, it really is all about the data. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. You're only as good as the data that's supporting the AI use case. So if you've got great data, you're going to have great AI. It's much like, back when you were in school, if you had a great teacher and you had great materials to learn a subject, you're going to be much better at that subject. AI works the exact same way. If you've got great data, great models or algorithms that feed that, you're going to have a great output. And I think, it's really important, especially with generative AI, which we'll be going into in a little bit, getting the data as tight as possible, and then, making sure that everything fits together properly so that you get accurate and predictable results.
Yeah. So Brent, that's where what you just described there seems very practical to me, right? And it's practical to worldwide technology. And I think that's why we've coined the term practical AI. And maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on what practical AI means, whether it's generative AI or otherwise. What's that mean for an enterprise to incorporate it into their business?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think we look at it through three pillars. And I think I'd start with, customers are really tend to stop a little bit and look around and go, do I just buy something off the shelf? And there's some challenges that go along with that, or do I build something brand new? And I think somewhere in that spectrum is what we call practical AI, which is taking the best of off the shelf and then customizing that so that it's unique to your business, so it can differentiate, either the way your employees interact with things or the way that your customers interact with your business. We really look at it through three pillars in terms of how we help customers achieve that objective around practicality. The first thing is, we probably not as well known at Worldwide, is that we've got a team of over 200 data science, data engineers that have been working with our clients for the last 10 years. And so those are people that work on everything from use case rationalization. So what's the best use case for your business, all the way to developing the right algorithms, the right models, tuning the data to that. So that's the first pillar, is really around that data engineering, data science, and true AI framework. We've also got the second pillar I'd refer to is really the high performance architecture. And what we mean by that is most of these AI models are going to, from development to training of the models to what we call inferencing or using those models in the wild. All those are going to be predicated on purpose-built infrastructure. So it could be on-premises infrastructure, it could be things that operate out at the edge, or it could be in the public cloud. And so that second pillar of that is really, how do these things operate? The third pillar for us, and I think that's where those first two come together, is in our AI proving ground or our AI lab. And that's really where customers can get hands-on with this technology. So earlier we talked about moving fast, but we also want to move fast in the right direction. And what the AI lab helps us to do is test out everything from the experience. So how do our either customers or employees engage with AI, into what we term AI solutions. That's the algorithms. Those are all the things that kind of feed into that. So that would be things like generative AI, deep learning, machine learning, things like that fall into that category. Also things around data strategy and analytics. We talked about how important the data is. So just figuring out that data strategy, it's really, where is my data, getting into the right format, getting into the right place so it can be consumed. And then the last part is that high performance architecture. So as you look at that third pillar, it's testing each one of those different areas to ensure that you've got a great experience, you've got your models are operating correctly, you've got good data, and then you've got something to run all that. So for us, those are kind of the three pillars that we look at in terms of how we help customers accelerate decision making, make the right decisions at the right time, and can start to scale out AI.
Yeah, I think that's quite a pragmatic approach, practical approach. I mean, and it really does start with having some AI and data expertise, right? And whether a customer has that internally, which many of them don't, or they rely on a good partner like Worldwide to have that expertise. And then you have to have the expertise. And really, we'll get to Travis here in a second. It does require a different type of IT architecture, right? And Brent, we like to call it a high performance architecture, but it is different than the traditional IT infrastructure that we've known and loved for 40 years now, or however long back you want to go. So Travis, let's pivot back to you and talk about the role of Intel, who's been involved with the IT infrastructure forever, right? And is truly a pioneer and a leader today. So let's talk a little bit about Intel's role.
So yeah, Bob, you hit on an interesting point in this, that the growth of AI has caused a bit of a fundamental shift in how the back end of the industry works, about the enablement of it, right? None of this stuff just happens, or if it does just happen, it doesn't happen very well without a bunch of foundational work being done, right? And where that starts, and this may sound odd coming from the hardware guy here, but where that foundational work actually starts on enablement, so enable those solutions, is around the tools and the libraries needed on the applications that the customers use to optimize them for a new kind of hardware architecture, right? Can you run AI on existing hardware? Absolutely. Does it work well? It depends. Is there new technologies and new architecture around accelerators optimized for AI? Yes. And that's what we've really seen over the past, call it 18 months or so, the real growth and interest in how do I accelerate this particular workload, and what has to happen in the background to make that happen. As much as possible, we try and make it invisible through you out to the customers. Customers have a solution, right? They've identified, here's a business outcome I want. We've identified, here's an AI solution that enables that, right? That just works. Intel's put a ton of time over the past 40 years, but over the past 5 or 10 years, on coming up with what are the right tools, what are the right optimizations, how do we work with the ISV and application community, and then what are the accelerators that need to exist in the hardware at the core level, from edge to cloud, as you called out earlier, to really enable these new AI solutions, right? So how do we, from an Intel perspective, it's how do we enable bringing that AI experience everywhere, from the data center to the cloud, to on-prem, to the edge, to client devices. It's all about enabling that whole solution end to end again, between hardware, software, application, accelerators, and all the optimizations that go along with that are really required for all of us to take advantage of this growth in AI that we see.
And Travis, just taking a step back and just thinking about Intel's role for 40 plus years, there really is something fundamentally different though around AI, right? And that's the kind of the tale of the two different types of compute that needs to be in place. One of them being what's known as training the models and building the models themselves, right? And then there's the running of the models, or actually what's called inference, right? In terms of kind of that real-time application performance that's needed to infer and give the answers to the questions that are being asked of the trained model. So, Intel plays a role in both those areas today.
Absolutely, and it's a growing conversation in the industry on training versus inferencing and fine tuning at edge computing. And there's a bunch of different places we could go with this, but the two you called out are the one that generally get highlighted. When you're talking about a very large multi-billion of parameter models, how do you actually train that model? It's theoretically possible to do on traditional compute, though not recommended, and it takes a long time. That's where you see some of these targeted specific AI accelerators, GPUs and others, that are really designed specifically for those really, really large models that you have to go train. Once that model is trained and you get to the inferencing of it and how do you actually use that model and get the data out of it and the analysis out of it you need, that is more traditionally done and will continue to be done more on the traditional compute architecture, right? So if you think about a big chat model or a big llama type model, you're going to train that model of 50 billion parameters on a GPU. That architecture is required. Once that model's trained, that model may sit idle for a week or a month or 6 months, and you're just going to infer and you're going to use that model for whatever it is, finance, healthcare, whatever it is the answer you're trying to get out of it. That inferencing has traditionally been done on Xeon and will continue to be done because of the accelerators down at the core level, at the package level, that we've built into the architecture to enable that, right? So more and more you will see a bifurcation of what is the optimal technology, what is the optimal hardware and optimizations. Again, back to the original question, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Do you have a pre-trained model? That runs on one type of architecture. Do you have a whole new thing you're trying to develop and you need to actually go train a model? That will happen on a different kind of architecture optimally. And then when you come time to inference it and fine tune it and run it, you can use your standard existing infrastructure for the vast majority of what you're going to do after that initial major model is trained. And I think that's where you're going with the question.
Agree, Travis, agree. And, we're going to get to some of those newer applications. I'm going to ask both you and Brent to kind of comment on what you're seeing bubbling up. But, from my perspective, that the reality is that, AI is going to be embedded in nearly every application, right? Whether it's an enterprise application or a consumer application that exists today. And nearly all of the top SaaS providers, whether that's a Salesforce or a Workday or ServiceNow, all have roadmaps to include AI into their applications. And guess what's been powering all of those existing applications for years? Intel processor. So I think, a lot of the inference that will be involved with these new features of existing applications are going to be able to run and be powered on Intel processor. So I think that's super exciting. So, but what are the newer applications that are bubbling up? And I'll turn this one to Travis first.
Hey, Bob, I appreciate the question. Let me frame it from the lens of the questions I get a lot from our customer base, right? What are some of those use cases when a customer initially calls and they say, I need AI, and we start trying to build out, what are you trying to accomplish? What are the business outcomes you have? They normally lean into what are the either the use cases you have or specific applications that Intel, where do you already see, right? AI is literally being talked about everywhere. And I think in time, we'll quit talking about AI as a standalone because it will literally be embedded in everything we do. You won't even notice anymore that your car is running autonomously. That's all based on AI. You won't notice the ads you get on your phone, which some of us call it spam today, because it's all run on AI. Your doctor, when you go in, they will automatically have an AI system running in the background that can help diagnose whatever you went in to see the doctor for. So I think in time, we'll quit talking about AI as this fancy new thing because it will literally be everywhere. Between now and then, I think there's a couple easy examples from a a consumer standpoint, we talk about autonomous driving and you hear targeted ads, right? Again, what we would call spam. That's stuff that's visible to a consumer today, but in reality, some form of AI has been deployed for more than 10 years. If you go back and look at some of the history books of the industry, they will say that the early vestiges of AI probably started 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, right? It's just been the last 12 to 18 months with the emergence of ChatGPT that you mentioned earlier, that's really pushing AI, the need for AI solutions, call it a 1,000% increase, right? 1,000 times more. All of a sudden, everybody's super interested. Where we're seeing that though, yes, it's across the board, but where we really see the applications today and where the biggest need is are in things like fraud detection and financial. If I'm a bank, I want to make sure that my customers' data is protected, their credit card is protected. If I'm the consumer, I want to make sure that my credit card and my bank data is protected, right? Same thing with trading platforms. Think about anything in the stock market or currency trading, hedge funds. They're all using some form of AI in the background. Video streaming, AI-enabled security, right? That security layer, AI-enabled, is becoming ubiquitous everywhere. And I could go on and on and on with different solutions for different domains where we see that. But we really see the growth in the use cases coming about in vertical specific, domain specific pre-trained models, again, for FSI or manufacturing or healthcare. And if you think down the line of all the different industries and verticals that everybody plays in, there's a huge need for an AI solution, very targeted at a business problem in that specific industry. So that's where we really see the growth, is that targeting, and where we see the use cases is in very specific domain, vertical specific use cases where there's a need to solve a business problem that we can't traditionally do today, right? And if you look at some of those pre-trained models, I think the latest I saw was that there are something like 100,000 pre-trained models out in the ecosystem, right? For customers to try and take advantage of. And part of our objective is to how do we make those things easier to find, easier to deploy, and easier to use, so AI does become more simple and more ubiquitous across the ecosystem.
Couldn't agree more, Travis. There's a lot of complexity out there. And I think one of the reasons why many of our customers come to Worldwide is to help kind of sort through the complexity that's out there. And Brent, you're in front of dozens of customers every month. You do a great job, being kind of our evangelist at Worldwide in terms of what we're doing to help our customers. What are you seeing out there? What are you hearing lately?
Yeah, I think just maybe to continue with Travis's thought, I think the best AI is AI that you don't even know that it's there. I think where most people go today, you may not know you're using like predictive AI when you're typing out a chat message and it predicts the next word, or you're shopping for a new pair of pants and it recommends a shirt. That's recommendation-based AI based on machine learning. But I think where things are actually headed is you're going to start to see a lot of these different types of AI integrated into something like an assistant. So if I'm, shopping for that pair of pants in the future, I might have my own personal assistant. So when we think about what's coming next around generative AI, it's really looking at, how do I integrate multiple types of AI together into an experience that makes it just easy for me to do things. So that's a personal example of that. But I'm going to also look at, if I'm a physician in a hospital, I might be a radiologist. I'll have a generative AI assistant or interface where I'll just say, hey, take a look at so-and-so's scan. Let me know if there's a break, and then, give me a prognosis and a recommended treatment option. That's building in a lot of different types of AI through a really seamless experience for a user. So I may have one of those in my personal life. I'll also probably have one of those in my professional life as well. So whether I'm, a financial analyst looking at, how do I create the ideal portfolio for this client? Just mentioned the physician example. And then on the personal side of it, instead of making a recommendation for a shirt with pants, I may say, I'm looking for a new wardrobe, or I'm attending a wedding. Can you help put together some options for me? And then give me the best price for those options. So those are some things that people are looking at. Now that's a ways out. That's like, more of a personalized integrated AI. Today, we kind of run the gamut. We have customers looking at, kind of what I just described, all the way to, let me get really, really specific around a couple things that we think would be valuable for the business. So I'll give you a couple examples here at Worldwide that we're looking at. So we have this great capability in our lab, the Advanced Technology Center, and we have, roughly 10 years of experience doing really complicated lab type work. So I have this application on this type of infrastructure, give me the results. What we don't have is a generative AI front end to that. So what we're working on here at Worldwide is just creating that front end. So I can just say, hey, give me an example of where we've tested out SAP on infrastructure and give me the results of that. And so you'll have that GPT-like experience coming back to you. And then maybe a more traditional example would be, we're looking at, clients looking for us to give them a proposal or give them a statement of work on something. And instead of, coming back through and doing a manual, assortment of where have we done this before? What are our capabilities? Give me some examples of customers we've done it with. We're just going to input that into our process, and it'll give us, summarize the ask. It'll make recommendations on how to fill that out, and then present some examples of where we've done it with other clients. So it just helps us serve our customers by being much, much faster with how we respond to that. So those are a couple examples of, how we're thinking about it at Worldwide. But, really when we talk to our customers, it's really, paint your own picture with AI. Where do you think it could be valuable? And, how do you think it could impact your business? And then for us, it's just working our way back from that. What do you want to accomplish back into, okay, what are the different types of AI that could support that? What's the data that would feed that AI? For us, great AI is based on great data. And then to Travis's point is, am I looking at development? Am I looking at training? Am I looking at inferencing and then developing the infrastructure or capability to go run those things? So that's some of the things that we're looking at. And, hopefully that helps you as you kind of look at your own journey and how you might start with AI.
Yeah, I love that. Great AI begins with great data. That's for sure, and we definitely see that even internally at Worldwide. And I would say that, and Brent, you mentioned it earlier. I think one of the horizontal use cases that we're certainly seeing is that improved customer experience, right? Helping that customer through whatever process that they're going through, whether it's shopping or configuring or whatever it may be. So I think that real-time, intuitive, simple interface that a chat bot creates, I think is the reason why it's been so accepted and adopted. And it's the reason why ChatGPT went to nearly 100 million users in a very, very short period of time. So I think that pattern of using a chat bot against your data, against your company knowledge, is going to be something that customers are going to take advantage of very, very quickly to get those early wins. And as you mentioned, we had our own kind of roadmap internally where Jim Kavanaugh, who by far and away is our leader around artificial intelligence at Worldwide, gave us the task of identifying use cases that were out there. And we identified 70 or so, and we boiled it down to a handful. And we now have a couple in production pilot. So very exciting times, even for Worldwide, in terms of how we're taking advantage of AI. I would also say, just pragmatically, and things are happening so quickly, we're also keeping an eye on all of our SaaS providers as well. And I think customers are well served to keep that in mind as well. They're going to be building in new features, new functionality into the existing applications that you already own, whether that's Salesforce or ServiceNow or Workday or whatever it may be. I think the biggest example of that is Microsoft in O365. And it's amazing the rich functionality that they're already building into tools we already know and love, like Word and PowerPoint and Excel. So very, very exciting times. So Travis, I want to follow up and talk to you a little bit about how Intel is providing that foundational technology. We already talked a bit about that, but you've been a great supporter in helping us build out our AI proving ground within our Advanced Technology Center.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked the question. I was afraid we were gonna miss this part. It's a critical piece of the conversation. As involved as Intel has been in developing the ecosystem and the background technology and building accelerators into the silicon and everything that goes with that, that's not a solution that a customer is just going to go natively buy, right? You can't go down to your local Best Buy or your local Walmart and buy the stuff Intel makes. It really does take a village to build out these solutions. The same way that you're talking about the capabilities that you've built internally, both for your customers in the ATC and in your AI lab, and for your own internal use, it's those same capabilities that Intel looks to for customers to test. Here's the foundational technology we've built, and here's the system. Customers want to come test that, right? So it's been a great partnership over the years of customers being able to test their solutions, their algorithm, their software, whatever it is, in a real life lab, something other than just PowerPoint. They can come test it, right? And they can see what works, and they can leverage your expertise on how do we bring this thing to life for us? Who's actually done it? Or how can we test it? We have a theory. How do we go test that? For all of us as an ecosystem, being able to leverage the capabilities that you've built out over the past many number of years in the ATC and in the developing AI lab, I think is critical to all of us being able to really see the solutions that are available in the market and how do you go deploy it and how do you optimize it so it actually delivers an outcome your customers are looking for. I think it's been a great partnership.
Yeah, thanks, Travis. It truly has been an amazing partnership with between Intel and Worldwide, and we definitely appreciate that. Hey, I want to switch gears a bit. There's a lot going on with AI, a lot of different dimensions that are worth kind of digging into and exploring. The use cases, the regulatory landscape, the concerns about bias in models and ethical AI and so forth. From each of your vantage points today, is there anything that you'd like to talk a little bit more that we haven't touched on already? And Brent, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'd say the thing I would want to touch on a little bit is I get the sense that a lot of customers are confused, or maybe just they're analyzing this landscape and they're going, man, where is this going? And I just suggest I'd err on the side of moving somewhere, looking at a use case that you go, I don't know if this is going to go, but you don't want to be Blockbuster or Kodak. You want to be, moving forward with AI in some capacity. So you might be looking at the market going, I don't really know where this is going to go, but I'd err on the side of movement over the side of, I'm going to stand pat, kind of wait to see where it's going, move fast. AI is moving as quick as anything I've seen in the industry. And I think it's going to be completely change your business in terms of, how do employees work? How cool would it be to have the world's best assistant working with every one of your employees, whether that person's in operations, HR, sales, et cetera. If I could create the world's best assistant, and that's called an AI assistant, how impactful would that be to your business? Or if I'm looking at my customer set and going, how do I serve that customer faster? How do I enrich their experience with my business? Every business in your sector is looking at doing this. And I would just say, err on the side of movement over the side of caution. The people that move fast are going to succeed in this market. The people that stand pat are likely going to be far behind and moving even further and further back as competitors move forward. So just, really look at AI as an opportunity, both in terms of how you operate your business, as well as in terms of how you compete and differentiate in the market.
Awesome. So Brent, don't be a Kodak, don't be a Blockbuster. So I definitely can relate to that, but I think it's so true. Customers, our clients, they do need to move, and they have to have a sense of urgency around AI because it can be that impactful to their business. What do you think, Travis?
I agree. This is one of the fastest technology evolutions I've seen in 25 years of doing this. And I don't think it's going to slow down. Those that wait get left behind trying to catch up, right? And I think there's 100 examples, and you picked two great ones with Blockbuster and Kodak, on companies that were ahead of their time and then slowed down. You don't want to be part of the group that slowed down. As part of that, there's a need for some kind of an intelligence around building AI, right? There's an absolute need to go fast, and there's a need to go fast intelligently. You don't want to put your data at risk, right? And I think we've seen a lot of regulatory coming out, different countries talking about data sovereignty or ethical AI or different terms for whatever that is, how to use AI intelligently. I would make sure that you have, as part of the AI strategy, what is the security strategy that goes with that? How do you protect the data? right? How do you protect your customers' data? How do you protect your data? Having some kind of a security conversation as part of the overall AI plan is the other thing I'd bring up as critical to that conversation. I'm not saying slow down. It has to, but that secure AI has to be part of the conversation as well.
Well said. And that's about all the time we have for today. Travis, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us again. Thank you for the partnership between Worldwide and Intel. It's been fantastic over the last couple decades that we've been together as partners. Brent, as always, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're probably going to go jump on a client call right after this. We appreciate all that you do and your great expertise that you have. And I want to thank all of the viewers that tuned in to today's episode. We really appreciate it and looking forward to having you tune in next time.